might be a secret carrier. I saw that's a thing now, so.
It seemed like to me in the current climate, it would be better just to mail it in.
Tim should be calling in. I never heard from Van. Travis may be calling in as well.
We have a quorum though, right? Yes.
Yeah, we do.
So.
But
so if that's-
I did text everyone and say, check your email. There's a way to call in if you don't want to be here.
So then if we're not gonna have as much, then maybe we should try to spread a little bit,
Agreed.
just to,
Because I'm not gonna be available to go
just
at
to
my
try
phone
to
for election day. I'm working,
at least show. I mean, just to kind of at least show.
We did the same thing in the boardroom today, the admin team. Distance ourselves from the board table.
Did you see the,
And there's times when it's
the
like
email
you're in
from
a
the
little bubble
Chamber of
where
Commerce?
you
They
don't
got
even
a
notice.
Osceola Strong page link, and it's got every, from Polk County,
Press star now, otherwise please wait, and you will be joined at
CDC,
the
all the links, you just click on them when you go there. So it's like, sweet.
Someone had
So that's bookmarked in my
Yeah.
phone, because I can get anything
Please
I
announce
need.
yourself.
forever or something, you know what I mean?
And even if it's
Hey guys, can you hear me okay?
September 11th.
Yeah. Hey, good, that's Ben. We'll see how this, we'll see how this conference call stuff goes.
who do we got on the phone, Van?
Yeah, well, we've been talking. So we, three of us have been on the net here, and, so we were just waiting for you to boot up and so we could see how it goes.
Can you see me, Van?
I know, I'm here.
So all,
You slide, just kind of slide that way a little so that, cause then I can, then we'll try to make our 6 feet-ish.
yeah, all three are on, Fran.
All three are on?
All three are on.
All right.
Okay, perfect.
We will call this meeting to order at 6 PM. Special board meeting tonight. First item is going to be approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
I'll second.
Motion by Deb, seconded by Bruce. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Should we do a roll call vote? Sorry. All those opposed? Passed unanimously. Can you guys hear us okay?
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay, thank you. All right, next item, other business, discussion and possible action regarding update on village process and preparedness in reaction to COVID-19. So, I've said this a few times, it feels like we're Twilight Zone here, and I just wanted to get everyone together, and we need to talk about what we're gonna do with the building here, and a few other items, and I'm gonna have Ben kind of fill you in.
Okay, well, again, this is deja vu for everybody because we've all gone through it many times at our places, but Fran and I are hoping to just sit down with you and outline what the village board or what the village staff and departments are doing, what we're doing to make sure we work with all of our organizations, and then also what we're doing from a personnel standpoint to make sure day-to-day function continues, and then how we might be able to look at helping our employees. So before I get into some of the pieces here, I've been sending you a lot of emails with information and guidance, and I think we've all just been passing it around. The chamber's also been doing that and everything. You all know it, anybody that's listening out in the world today, the CDC is the number one place to go for up-to-date, relevant. You can then whittle down to the Department of Health and Health Services from the state to Polk County Health, and then 211 is a good resource also for calling in. Our village website will only be referencing those locations, plus maybe a memo today of what our village function is. It's not my job to give anything in medical advice, so I won't be doing that. We've been working with our local partners, with the health department, with 211, the hospitals, the school boards. Bob was at one of the meetings with me, our ambulance, fire department, and everybody to make sure we're all on the same page. So in the event something were to happen, we have it well coordinated. Before I get into too far, most of your packet here is just information for you to make sure you have in front of you. But I am, later on, Fran's gonna go over one of these emergency resolutions that the village board should continue, or should consider. Not today because it's not an agenda item, but something we'll need to approach fairly soon. So to the update in the village process here, hopefully you have all had a chance to at least skim over what I have here. I'm not going to go over it word for word, but I wanted to draft up an official statement that I would like to make sure is on our website and then is available to 211 so they know where we're sitting here. A lot of this right here is more related to what I would like this board to be a part of deciding, but simply put, I am recommending that we, close off portions of this building for emergency's sake, just to keep them out. Public doesn't need to be in here. The library's closed. The senior center's already limited their own functions. So I'd like us to consider that through April 6th, and then at that point in time, the board can consider longer if necessary. That's basically in consistency with a lot of other organizations in our library. For things that we're up to, police presence will still continue without interruption, but we are proposing that all community gatherings and outreach events close. That means coffee with a cop are canceled until further notice. Some of these outreach events, we're still having boots on the ground. We're still having officers out there. So it's not like there's some free reign on looting the liquor store here or anything. Our office will continue to remain open, but we'll cancel any non-essential meetings. We will focus on interactions over the counter, email, and phone, not necessarily in person. And then, again, because I'm proposing a pure close, access only through the lower level south window. The library's already done this. They've closed off until the 6th, and then they're going to readdress it from there. So the library board did vote unanimously on that. Public gathering spaces, really focusing on here as well as others. So we've already canceled any non-essential meetings and social gatherings. That's just part of the village library closing. These meetings are live. They're live right now, so any resident can continue to see them. And any meeting that we need to have public, we'll also be looking at ways to have residents be able to conference call in, which is considered legal through the Department of Justice for community involvement. So the live streaming is a great way for residents to get to know what we're up to and listen and be a part of it, but they can't contribute through it. So we have to offer some phone line or chat or live access emails or something so a resident can ask a question. And then they're public meetings. So we theoretically could close the doors and have just us meet that way.
How many people could a phone, like how many people could call in?
This is free conference call. It'll handle 150 people.
Oh, okay.
So 150 phone calls. It will start to get staticky, but you could do that many. Another kind of fun thing is that we boosted our Wi-Fi. This building is a really big asset for people to get to. So we have Wi-Fi that's now streaming outside of the building. So the south parking lot is fully accessible, free Wi-Fi. So any resident that needs to come here, that would come here to study or connect into the grid, they can still do that.
Are you gonna put that on the webpage?
Yes.
Great.
Yep.
Because that's one of the concerns we have at the school right now is continued learning. And that will be important because there are people that don't have access at home.
Yep. So it's the free Discovery Center guest. They just click in, and it's the whole south parking lot is available for that. We're also exploring about whether we want to do the outsides of the rest, but then it starts to get into logistics of how many antennas can we stick on the outside of the building. Elections, Fran, I'm hoping you can kind of give an update on where we're sitting there.
Sure, I'll just try to give you a brief update and outline on that. The Wisconsin Elections Commission, working in conjunction with the CDC, has set out a number of guidelines for clerks to follow as far as there we go, it's on. As far as clerks implementing the election. The WEC was meeting late this afternoon, and one of the things on their agenda was canceling the election. I have not heard any official word on that, but I am very doubtful that will happen. The measures that they're recommending be put in place for the April election. They have also told us to plan on using those same items in the May election. So I will run down just quickly down the list of what steps we're taking and what's in place. The first one is that everyone is encouraged as much as possible to vote absentee. The deadline to request an absentee ballot online is today. However, the deadline to request an absentee ballot be mailed out to you is 5 o'clock the Friday before the election. So there's still plenty of time to get an absentee ballot. The only thing that was cut off was requesting it online. You can still request an absentee ballot by mail. Also, we have ballots available now. People can vote in-person absentee, which some people refer to as early voting. People can do that at any time here at Village Hall during regular office hours when I'm around, which is pretty much all the time. So we're looking at 9 to 4. People can come in and vote early, in-person absentee, and be done with it, in that manner as well. I didn't have any ballots really to mail out until today, and we do have a large, probably a record number of absentee ballot requests so far, which is a good thing, but I'm going to ask people to be patient. The ballots are coming, they're on their way, but there's a lot of them to get out, and it will take some time. You'll get it within, normally within 24 hours. We have to fulfill that request, but that is not going to be possible to get ballots out within 24 hours with the large number that we have. For people who want to vote in person on Election Day, we will be here. The polling places will be available. There is a memo going out to the poll workers. Some of our poll workers are high-risk individuals and are the kind of folks that are being recommended to stay home right now. And so we do have backup plans in case those poll workers can't make it. I've already heard from several of them that they're not comfortable coming out and working then, and that's okay. We don't want anybody who is at risk to do anything they're not comfortable with, certainly. And our backup plan is we have had several community volunteers step up, but we are going to look for other village staff that live within Polk County. And I'll give a crash course of the 2-hour poll worker training, and if you come in and vote in person, you may be greeted by a police officer giving you your I voted sticker. Or you may have one of the guys from the maintenance department help you out, get your ballot on your machine. You may have our village administrator may be manning a poll book that day. So we're going to pull everybody together, and we will certainly have enough people to get the job done, and we look forward to serving you that day. Also, just as an aside, to serve as a poll worker, you have to be a resident of Polk County, but not necessarily a resident of the village of Osceola. So that's why some of our employees who don't live here within the village are able to serve as poll workers. We have a couple employees who don't live in Polk County who can't, but we'll still have enough people. Sanitation-wise, just a brief rundown of the process. People will enter through the west door here. We're going to ask people to stop here and wait until they're called by the poll book worker to approach the poll book. We're going to implement social distancing of 6 feet as much as we can, is what the guideline is. We understand we don't have the room here to make that possible when we have a line of people. But we're going to do the best we can with that. We're also looking into the possibility of having a plexiglass shield on the table for the poll books. Rick is got some really great ideas about that. Rick and Ben are working to sketch something out there. So when people approach, there will be a barrier between the public and the people doing the poll books. There'll be a slot underneath. People will still be required to sign the poll books. Everybody's going to get a pen, and we don't want that pen back. That's your pen. You use that pen to sign the poll book. If you want to use it to touch the screen when you vote, you can use it for that as well, but it's your pen. If you don't want it, we're going to have a garbage can. You can throw it in the garbage on the way out because we don't want it back. Of course, we're going to have hand sanitizer available. in the entry and the exit of the polling place at the machines. The machines will be wiped off and wiped down in between voters. We also will have gloves if you're, hesitant about touching the screen or touching anything. We'll give you a pair of plastic gloves. One use, throw them out.
Do they work with the screen? Has anyone tested that?
I'll find out at the public test.
We have problems with that, so.
Yeah. I believe that they should. From what I'm hearing from other clerks, it sounds like they're working okay.
Sometimes if you push a little harder too, it'll
Yeah.
get through there. But
Push a little harder, put maybe a little bit of the meat of your finger into it instead of just the tip of your finger. I've heard makes a difference as well. When people are asked their name and address and to show their photo ID, our poll book workers are not going to be touching and handling everyone's driver's license. The voter will be required to hold their license up to the plexiglass for the poll workers to see and examine. They're not going to be touching, 500 driver's licenses that day or whatever. So we have some good practices in place. It's going to be, I think, a safe, positive experience, certainly as much as we can make it for people. But please, if you can, vote absentee.
thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Just a couple other minor ones. Fire protection will continue without interruption. The fire department's already doing a great job prepping, making sure that they go through their steps. As simple as if they're not properly protected, then then you just be cautious and you do it the right way. I'm going to defer to fire department to know what their rules are there, especially with the ambulance and everything else. Public works facilities, including garage, bathroom, warming shelter, auxiliary sites are all closed to the public. Sometimes they had coffee, 10 o'clock break time with the public works guys. That's all closed. Critical infrastructure will continue to be maintained, and public recreational areas, parks will remain open. Those are great resources that are getting people away from other people. So we're not going to close parks. Wastewater, you see on here, there are times where we have tours or other things. Those will all be postponed or canceled. The treatment plant's going to remain locked. Very, very limited access in and out to not only protect people that need to come there for deliveries, but also our own staff. Again, critical infrastructure is maintained. And then, this is the time where we start to do meter readings, and some of those meters are inside the buildings. And that means that we're going to be looking at estimating water usage if we can't get an accurate reading to help protect our staff, as well as their staff too. Any scheduled meter replacements that aren't, a sprinkler running in somebody's basement will just be postponed until this passes. And then staff will just try to limit their interactions with others through just distancing programs. And I'll kind of outline that a little bit later. Lastly, municipal court has been canceled until May 26th. That was directed down by our judge, and contact Jen if you have any questions. She's been doing a really good job to make sure any of the future individuals are well notified. So that's just a general breakdown of the memo that I've drafted up that I want to make sure the residents are well aware of. But it does include some discussion from the board about how we feel about closing the building and closing these other facilities officially until April 6th or beyond. So before we get to that debate, though, do you have any questions about this?
Hey, Ben, this is Tim. Just wondering if maybe we want to consider adding some information about what functions maybe could be done by the residents by email or mail instead of coming in, as an option there to kind of give them a heads up that we prefer they didn't come in, and these are things they could do without coming into the office.
Good question. We can absolutely add a little bit on the bottom saying these are online resources, paying your bill online, all of those. We can add that into the memo for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Good idea.
Will the village payment Dropbox be open?
Yes.
Because I know the library one is not.
Yep, ours will continue to be open. The biggest reason why the library closed theirs was because they couldn't guarantee the sanitation of the books, but ours will definitely stay open.
And I'm gonna just ask this because I did take out some fee-type items, so what will happen with those?
As far as I know, what Shelby said last night at the meeting was that it's basically going to be fine forgiveness. Like Ben said, they don't want to take books in, and they are, Shelby put together a great plan for all of the staff there to do work intermittently here at home and everything. So although there will be at times people here, they want to limit their exposure too.
Yeah.
So there won't, the Dropbox for books will be locked, so you won't be able to drop anything off.
So does that mean the little libraries will be,
The little libraries around town, those have nothing to do with us.
nothing to do with us?
Those are
Great. Okay.
private-owned things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So any other questions on that memo before I continue?
So just to recap a couple things, we're gonna limit any staff interacting with public as much as possible. I mean, which should be, we have the glass at the downstairs. You don't need to go anyone's house, correct? Water? Not unless it's an emergency. Right, but. Case by case. Okay.
Yep, we'd officially limit to appointment only.
And we'll still have all services, so, okay.
Correct. Yep, we'll still, all critical infrastructure is still gonna be here. My proposal to close the upstairs and the senior center officially is we don't need residents meeting in here right now, as much as we love them. Same with the meeting rooms downstairs. The intent is to keep the south doors open just so they can get to our area and police.
And will we be up and cleaning in that front area then?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, we already wipe it down nightly. I go out there and wipe it down, and then our cleaning crews do the same.
Okay. Any other questions for Ben or Fran on this? All right.
We don't have to get to
Ben,
it.
can you check the status of,
Go ahead.
can you hear me?
Yep, just fine.
I was just wondering if you could touch base with fire and police. I know EMS is kind of outside of our realm, but see if where they're at or if they're trying to get the proper protective wear, I guess. I know it's been a struggle for some places, but hate to be limited on resources if,
I
one of the personnel comes down with some sort of issue.
Is it, this is Travis, right?
Yep.
Correct?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I spoke to Ron and he said they have some, but they're trying to get more, but as of right now, it is hard to come by. But he was trying to put together little kits basically for the officers to have in their car. I don't know about fire.
Travis, I can kind of speak to fire and EMS. Right now, Donnie was at the meeting with us, with them, and right now they're telling first responders, dispatch, well, you know that, dispatch is kind of screening calls. If they have a fever and cough and symptoms, people are supposed to wait outside, not enter the building before ambulance comes. I know Robin has gloves, gowns, and masks that first responders could use. First responders also have a supply, so that's what we're going by is any symptoms, first responders wait outside, and I would say police would do the same thing. And then we do have some supplies on ambulances that they could use.
Okay, cool.
All right. So next,
Yep, so just as of right now, I mean, at some point, I would love to see an action item to close the building and stuff, but we'll, if you want to wait till the end to do those, that's fine.
Or would it make
I'm
sense to just,
fine doing it now.
Do it as we go on.
yeah.
That's certainly
Yeah.
fine also.
So I'll make a motion to, I'm just gonna go off of what we have in here and, close the building other than the Third Avenue South entrance, to limit access and close the senior center.
I'll second that.
Was that Van? Was that you?
Yeah, yep.
Okay. Motion by Deb, second by Van to close down the Discovery Center other than the Third Avenue entrance for access to the police and village office. Correct?
Yep.
All
The-
right.
The one thing I had in there was, did you want to put an end date?
Oh.
Did you feel like amending that motion?
Yes, I would, and I'll put the same, through, I guess we could say through April 5th, then it would coincide with, then, the way that the library has it is that they'll reopen on the 6th, which would mean that it would end on the 5th. So our date, the closure would end on the 5th and reopen on the 6th. I'm not sure how, if you want to try to write that more clear.
We wa- Do you want to do it on our next board meeting date? So if we have to
Well,
make an.
the library is, they have theirs through, the reopen is April 6th.
Okay.
With the reevaluation kind of happening, probably the weekend before that. Shelby's going to be monitoring just like everyone else. So their plan is to reopen on the 6th, so I feel like we would have to say we would reopen on the 6th with that same kind of contingency for a reevaluation as it gets close. And
Should we start a business day on April 6th?
sure, that works, yep. So I'll amend that to add on to the end of it, closed through the start of business on April 6th.
All right. Still second at that one, Van?
Yeah,
All right.
I concur, I'll second that.
All right, so the amended motion from Deb, second by Van, is to close all common areas in senior center of the Discovery Center except for the Third Avenue entrance. And it will be closed through start of business April 6th. And we'll have to probably reevaluate the week prior. Any questions or comments? Okay, we're gonna do a roll call vote as we have three on the phone. So Bob,
Yes.
Van,
Yes.
Travis,
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
I'm yes. Deb?
Yes.
Bruce?
Yes.
All right. Passed unanimously. Next item, consider temporary closure of,
I think we just
oh,
kind of
yeah, we
reversed
did
them.
that, sorry, both together, all right. So, next, from Ben?
Okay, the second half of this is, the second memo you have is kind of a regurgitation of what you just saw, but it's really focused on our personnel side of things here. I'm not going to go into great detail about the facilities, we already went over that, but I wanted to let you know that the staff departments, they're continuing to work on a regular basis. We're going to continue to keep the lights on, everything's going to run. All staff have implemented social distance programs. We are limited in equipment sharing, as simple as the truck is assigned to one person and you're going to keep yourself in there. Very few times should you ever need to switch type vehicles, things like that. And then all departments are ensuring that their areas are kept clean and tidy, so cleaning crews as well as us with Lysol wipes and stuff can do our job. I have implemented flexible scheduling to allow staff to be able to work some time. So if a staff member has to come in at maybe 5 instead of 7 and then leave a little early because they have children at home in daycare, they still put in their time. We also have the ability to remote access. We have enough laptops, enough need for further education, training opportunities, and other things that staff, if they needed to work from home, do have the access to. That includes department heads that can continue to keep day-to-day on for them. And that's really important because we are a small staff, which means that I'm going to use our clerk as an example. If Fran's got to go out, how do we ensure that payroll continues, or how do we ensure that the election continues to the best of our ability? So the big concern there is right now our employee handbook says you guys have to use vacation, sick time, or comp time if you're sick, but yet we're forcing them to work. So it's really easy when you're salaried to do those, but an hourly, it's a little bit more difficult. So the big question I have for the board today is, given that we have critical needs we know we have, and we got to keep these lights on, and we're not a big group, that there are times where we all have to work from home, and not everybody has the luxury of being salaried where we have that flexibility. So I would like to see a discussion about allowing the pay to continue in the event that an individual is not able to come in because of this COVID-19, this coronavirus issue, where that hourly employee is still protected, saying, okay, you got your computer, you're going to be doing continuing ed, you're going to be doing training, you're going to be doing all your paperwork. It's a shame that you have to use sick time when you're sitting on your couch working, and our handbook does say that. So my proposal to you guys today is to discuss allowing our staff to continue getting paid in the event that we get a state or federal mandate that says we have to close this building, no choice. In the event that an individual is not able to come in for related to the reasons to this COVID-19, in the event that they get sick, their loved one or their child gets sick and they got to care for them, and yet we're still requiring them to work. I am recommending that we put a limit on the time of this, that this is only related to this current issue, and it's only when we have the state and federal emergency declarations out there. When those declarations are lifted and this issue has passed, staff go back down to standard time. This does not include, my proposal will not include your scheduled vacation days, you're going to the dentist, none of that. It's only related to this issue. And I laid out a few reasons why this is important, but I want to say them for the record. Number one, for me, this is a morale issue. These staff members are working hard, they're dedicated, they're putting in time, and it's hard to swallow that, you know, I'll continue to get paid because I'm salaried and I can work from home because it's allowed, and yet the person right next to me in office down doesn't have that luxury during a time where they're forced to stay out of the office. It's also important because it's one of the few opportunities we have to be able to use our pre-funded budgets to continue this with no fiscal impact. This doesn't impact the budget negatively. This is already budgeted money in here. It also allows us to keep consistent planning, that I know that payroll is going to get done because our clerk can do it from home if something came up. We have the ability to work from home. This gives us the tool to allow them to be paid. And then lastly, it's consistency. Other communities are doing this. Our libraries is doing this. And it would behoove us to consider the same way. But it can be a little contentious, and I would state that, you know, it's possible we'll get a few residents to put forth their opinion on why they don't have it, and yet we can offer it because of ours process is a little different. So
I got a comment.
with that, I'll open it up.
So I agree, I support you 100% on this. I don't know if we can encourage staff, if they've got vacations planned, or if they go to an area that is high risk and they have to come back and self-quarantine because of that. I would struggle. I would struggle with that if they take a vacation right now at a high-risk area, then have to self-quarantine at home because of that we would continue to pay them. That I would struggle with, when they know ahead of time that it's an additional 14 days.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, I know multiple people, including some in this room, that have canceled trips because of this unknown kind of, and I say unknown kind of loosely, but
Well,
there's a lot of unknowns.
Uncertain. I mean,
Uncertain.
just very uncertain.
My thought is we need to be patient. We do need to be flexible, as we don't know an end date, really. April 6th is kind of a general one we're using.
Yeah,
And I know I'm a two-income household and we both work, and we're doing that right now. We're switching, and luckily I have a job and that is flexible, so I want to do the same for everyone that works here. I do have a question. our people cross-trained somewhat? So if we do lose someone, we do have the ability to continue with their position, if
To,
that makes sense.
yes, to the best of our ability. Our public works and our utilities are cross-trained fairly well. It gets a little tough when public works might have to go into utilities and do some of the testing, but there is a good working knowledge of how the two systems work enough that they can work well. The opposite way is a little bit better. Our utilities can go over to public works and do those jobs much, much easier. There's also some state leniency on plowing and other licensing for that. We do have the ability where our Jen is very, very familiar with the payroll. She did a great job when we didn't have a clerk, so she can do those steps just like Fran can do others. I'm probably the weakest link in the payroll discussion, so. So the answer is yes, we do have some redundancy.
And I would think that in a time like this, that other villages, communities in the area, if somebody in a key position came down with this and was, couldn't work from home, we're ill, that other communities, and I would think that we would do the same to kind of loan our person out and work together. My one request on this would be for everyone to that are working, if it's like, to somehow track hours that you are putting towards this, planning, if somebody is out for a reason with it or something, only because I know as a state employee in Minnesota, there's been several times where we've done different things like prepping for a shutdown or something, where they've asked us to track those hours so that they can kind of see like a financial impact, but also because if there's a chance at some point that some sort of emergency funding comes up or paying back or something, just to kind of almost be ahead of the game instead of having to look back. You've probably spent, Ben, quite a bit of time gathering this. Just a little bit of tracking, it may come to nothing, as long as it's not like a huge onerous thing on everybody, but just a little bit of tracking on it in case something were to come up where somebody asks.
And Deb, at the school, we are tracking all COVID-19 related items, whether it's wages, supplies, or whatever, so.
Yeah,
We are doing the same already.
Yeah.
Awesome.
yeah,
Yeah, no, we got a spreadsheet built of, cost gets put in there, time,
good.
reasonable time. Some of this is prudent
Yeah.
planning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yep.
Bruce, any comments?
Bob brought up a good thing on the vacation. I think
Hold
we'd
on, Tim.
almost have to do that on a case-by-case basis. The general feeling is, yes, if you're gonna put yourself at risk purposefully, you gotta question that, and you gotta have that discussion with the employee. But especially if they have to be quarantined and they can't work, then that really puts this whole thing kind of in an area that we really don't know what we want to do. But I like the idea of paying them for working at home, even if they're hourly, because that seems pretty reasonable.
Yep.
And encouraging and keeping people safe.
Well, and this, this, there's never a perfect time to, employees that work from home, it's never a guarantee that it's gonna be exactly 8 hours because things come up, you got things, but this is our opportunity to say this is our way of showing support, and
Yeah.
I think it's obvious. You have staff in the audience that this is important to consider.
Tim, you had a comment?
Yeah, just for clarification purposes, this proposal talks about just making sure that kind of the flexibility afforded to the salaried employees of working from home are also afforded to the hourly employees, so we're just paying them for doing the work that they're already gonna do, just doing it from home instead of in the office. That's what the gist of this is.
My proposal is actually a little bit more than that, Tim. That's the lion's share of it, but it's also acknowledging that, there are times where we might be quarantined, and this is protecting our employees to ensure that, the lights are going to be able to stay on from their side. So,
And the work from home if
Sure.
necessary.
yeah. Yeah, and work from home is
Related.
important.
Go ahead.
Related impact due to COVID-19 would include parents having to stay home because the schools are closed? Is that a qualifying thing here?
Yes, yep.
Okay. Those are the clarifications I was looking for. That sounds good to me.
Okay, so just any other questions from that memo, just explaining some of the other pieces, how we're handling everything else from day to day?
So then, well, maybe I'll wait till, well, so if for some unforeseen reason, all of a sudden, the governor comes down and says, you know, all village, whatever stuff are closed, I would hope that this work from home thing with that, I mean, I would hope that we would work that in to, or that would be covered by this. If we're forced to close, we got to keep the place running. I mean, obviously, some things can't be done from home, but I mean, like Fran or you or the Jens, everything. I would want to make sure that there's the understanding that that's in here. If there's a forced shutdown, everybody is, we're not saying you got to go home and sit and use vacation.
Yeah, or
Yep.
furlough when
Sure
you're out
that-
of work
Yeah,
and
we gotta,
no
I want to
pay.
make sure that
Don't want to do that.
people don't have to burn through all of their vacations,
Right.
sick and everything, if something were to come down.
Yep.
And I know that there's, you know, I know that the state legislature will do considerations on that as far as like emergency funding, different stuff, but I just want to make sure that we have that in there, because I want, you know, we need to keep our employees paid through this.
Yeah, and as a board, we're going to have to also be fluid and patient and flexible as well. I mean,
Yep.
that's just,
Yep.
it's kind of what we all need to do right now.
So what type of motion, do you need a motion, Ben?
Yeah.
This one I would, it's changing our handbook temporarily.
So what do you want it to say?
I would encourage whoever makes the motion to allow pay to continue in the
For
event.
staff that work at home?
For staff, in the event that they're not able to come in because of this issue and they're,
Because of COVID-19?
because of COVID-19. And then to include what maybe Deb said, saying that
If it's total shutdown,
to
they will
accommodate
continue at home.
shutdowns.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, I'll second that.
Try and repeat that.
Fran might have typed it up.
Fran will have it typed up nicer than I said it.
Nice. Motion by Bob, seconded by Bruce. Do you have that typed up that you can repeat what was? I do. Thank you.
So the motion was by Bob Schmidt and seconded by Bruce Hilleman to allow pay to continue for staff because of the COVID-19 event, if they are working from home or if there is a mandatory shutdown of village services as ordered by the governor or other agency.
Do we need to include there, what your point though, to if someone willingly puts themselves?
I don't want that as part of my motion. I just want that
Oh, okay.
understood.
Yeah, no, that's, administration can make sure that
Do that?
we
Yeah,
work
and
with
we wanna
department heads.
Put in there that this is not only salary but hourly people, right?
All employees.
All employees, okay.
All right. Motion made, seconded. Any
I
que-
have one point, this is Tim. Is there any consideration about timing for this related to any federal government legislation for advanced PTO that I've heard about? Paid time off hours that could be associated with this? Just wondering if that's any consideration we need to be worried about here.
There is some language at the national level that sick time may be provided to individuals that have this. I don't know enough about it to feel really that comfortable talking about it, but there are some provisions that may come through the pipeline to protect some sick time for that.
So we've gotten quite a few communications, as a state of Minnesota employee, we've gotten quite a few communications on this, and the Minnesota pieces, I think, are following somewhat of the conversation of that. And it's pretty specific to, it has to be directly related to COVID. I mean, even down to how, working, taking time off to care for your kids with school is out and everything. I think there's gonna be some close scrutiny and documentation. So I think what we're doing, that stuff may come into play, but I think what we're doing right now does a good level of protection for our people and for us to continue having them paid, with the hope that if something comes up where there's those pieces, that the state or federal legislation will follow and we can kind of work it in to this.
And I think that could be a separate motion if we want to consider it.
We can reevaluate it.
Yep.
Yeah,
In the future, I just wanted to bring it up.
yeah.
Fran, is that consistent with what you've heard too?
From what I understand, it has been through the House, and it's been, there's a proposal that the House has approved, the Senate has approved, but it hasn't been signed yet. And I don't know, and it hasn't really been publicized what exactly the details of this aid package is, because the aid package includes so many different things. The specific details on everything aren't really known yet to the general public. And it's not signed into law yet either, so.
Yeah, I didn't mean to muddy the waters, but we
Yeah.
can reevaluate it if it comes to fruition at the state and federal level. That's fine.
Yeah, I think everybody's pretty cognizant of the fact this is a fast-moving situation with a lot of variables that change quite rapidly. We'll just have to keep meeting and talking and deciding as it comes up, I think.
Say just to Deb's point of tracking, just keep track of everything
Yeah.
that's related.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, tracking receipts, pictures, and records.
Yep.
all right, any other questions or comments? All right, we'll do a roll call vote again.
Yes.
Travis?
Nothing.
We're doing a roll call vote on the motion.
Jesus, Travis. Sorry.
So it's you.
Yeah.
All right, Van?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Deb?
Yes.
Tim?
Yeah.
Bruce?
Yes.
All right. Approved by everyone. All right, anything else, Ben?
I just, if you have any other questions, I'll be happy to answer or at least get you an answer. In your packets, just some other information that's in there. And I would ask if Fran could give a quick, kind of very brief elevator speech of what a future resolution would be. So in the event that we have any qualified reimbursements, maybe she can go through it.
I have a kind of a sample resolution that communities use to declare at some point when if and when federal funding for reimbursements becomes available, we'll need to pass a resolution declaring a state of emergency within the village, which sounds kind of scary. Of course, this whole thing is a little scary. And it may be that when we claim reimbursement, that we will only be permitted to go back as far as the date that resolution was passed. So it's probably best to pass that resolution sooner rather than later, the more to maximize whatever opportunity there is to collect any funds.
So how quickly can we put something in place, and do we have to I mean, that requires another meeting, which means us coming all back here again. How quickly, because
Well,
I would think it would be valuable.
we can't predict the future. We don't know what expenses we may incur between now and the next time the regularly scheduled meeting is. Chances are, unless something really drastic happens, it's not going to be substantial, but I mean, I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know. Whatever Ben's thoughts would be, I'm sure he has a lot of experience with this.
I think I'm confused. Is this state of emergency resolution predicated on some other event happening first? And if so, what's that event?
No, there are communities who are passing them now.
Yep.
And are already passing them.
We need to do it.
Yeah, have already.
I mean, the state of Minnesota's already declared a peacetime state of emergency.
Mm-hmm.
Has Wisconsin done that?
Yeah, they have.
Okay, so.
And as soon as the state did it was when I saw other communities that on the local level started passing them, as soon as the state did.
We did actually look and see, is it even possible to bring it up today? And it was a 24-hour notice issue.
Yeah.
I mean, I got wind of this at 10 o'clock this morning, so.
Yeah.
I'll come back whenever you want
Again,
us to.
Yeah.
we all need to be patient and fluid, and
Oh, yeah. But I'm thinking,
sure we're
where
all willing.
Fran has a good point. The sooner we do it, the
Yep.
better, because then they say, okay, it's retroactive to when you pass the state of emergency, and we, for whatever reason, waited a couple weeks, then we miss out on a couple weeks worth of benefits.
Potentially, yeah.
So,
I'll speak just for myself, but I'm gonna guess that I'd be willing, if we put this out there, I'd be willing, in 24 hours from right now,
I'll be
48
back.
hours from right now, to find a way, because I really want to make sure that we, as a village, are taking care of ourselves and taking care of our staff, and,
And our
you know.
taxpayers, if there's
yeah,
money available.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yep,
so how soon can we get that together?
24 hours from when agenda's posted, so Fran and I could go downstairs today and post an agenda, and it would be, I would say it's 6:51, so you could, if we, probably 7:30
7:30,
at the earliest on tomorrow.
be happy to trundle down at 7:30 tomorrow.
Me too.
I would too.
Okay. So, yeah, we'll work really quickly.
And if it slips to 8 o'clock, that's fine too, because we're gonna come in,
Yeah, this is gonna
pass the
be
resolution,
5
and then
minutes.
Yeah,
it'll
that's
be
fine,
done in
yeah.
5
Well,
minutes.
it's posting of the agenda, so
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
if we don't have the words completely perfect,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can wordsmith it tomorrow, but as long as you get the
Thing posted.
agenda.
I'm just saying, I'm flexible, whatever time it happens, it happens.
Yep.
Doesn't matter to me if it's 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock or 6:30 or whatever,
9 o'clock.
9 o'clock.
Maybe make sure people understand we're
Sleep in.
doing this
I
because
can
of
sleep in. I'm
11
retired.
possible federal
This is my best
reimbursement and not
gym on
because
the
we
office,
feel
so.
there's this Osceola state of emergency. This is tied towards reimbursement and
Yeah.
not because we feel we're in a crisis.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah, yep.
Want to scare people.
Yeah, and I just, and that's one of the things about us having this meeting tonight, having this discussion and everything, is to show kind of a calm solidarity together to take care of our village. All of us that are in it, that live here, all of us that work in it and everything, to just show, some calm leadership to the village that we are aware we'd rather be proactive than reactive.
Absolutely.
well, it'll be a nice, quick 5-minute meeting.
Yeah, we've done them before.
Yeah. So my one suggestion I would give to you guys, all of you guys, is that and Bruce knows this well, if we end up closing or something, or people are out on, like, for us, we're on a mandatory telework, I have started planning and sending meeting notices for coffee breaks with people that I work with, for even a 15-minute kind of check-in and everything. I've been sending, wellness check-in emails. I would suggest even to your friends, I sent one to the entire chamber board today, just with some humor in it and everything, but just to, if you are forced into further social distance or solitude, continue to reach out, because I've been teleworking since last week, and the list of what I miss is down to missing everything from like my stand-up desk to the good coffee pods I left behind. So, but
Couple
yeah,
things I've heard this week is if you are, call 5 people that you don't normally talk to, try to reconnect with people. Get out and walk. There's nothing to say you can't go for a walk. So,
Except maybe not tomorrow, the first day of spring, when it should be raining and transitioning to snow in the evening.
but
All right,
Yeah.
this is Van. We are gonna have another meeting tomorrow night, what time?
that'll be emailed out. We're shooting for 7:30, maybe 8. But
7:30 is doable.
we can do 7:30,
Brandon and I can get it, that's not a problem.
and we can set up another phone link, so.
Okay. I'll email a new link. This one should work, but if it doesn't, I'll make sure to get a new link out for everybody.
All right.
All right, I know normally we have any other
That-
business.
That packet, excuse me, this is Dan again, sorry to bug you, but, that packet that you have, did I have that on the email or not? I guess I didn't, there was so many different ones,
Yep,
and if not, could you send one of the police cars down with that packet for me?
not a problem. We'll definitely get you a paper copy for your records.
Okay, and then I'll give you back my packet case when they come down.
Yeah. It's about time you get that back to us.
We've been looking for that.
Wipe it down.
Yeah, wipe it down.
got my hand
It'll be
sanitizer.
sanitized, believe me.
I know normally we have any other items, but it's not on our agenda. Can I still ask if anyone has anything? Is that against any rules?
You know, sure.
Bob, anything?
No, I don't.
All right. Tim, anything?
Oh, just stay safe, everyone.
Travis?
I got nothing.
Van?
Nope, that's it, thank you.
Deb?
Nope.
Bruce?
Nope.
All right. Yeah, I guess just, patient, flexible.
Yeah.
Try to enjoy your family at this time, and we'll all see you tomorrow morning. So, see ya.
Okay, bye.
Adjourned at
Adjourned at 6:56.